grace. Luke 1:26-38. The birth of Jesus is often associated with words such as joy, peace, worship, praise, and goodwill. But the first good news to Mary is that of grace, charito, in verse 28, including the angel's imperative greeting, chairo. What is grace? Why is grace a strength and not a weakness? How does grace make life worth living? How do we embrace grace? First, cast all cares to the Lord. Luke 1:26-29. Soon to be rocked by scandal, reviled by society, and rife with questions, Mary understandably was greatly troubled, verse 29, or diatarasso in Greek, shocked, stunned, and shaken. Jesus' birth is a time of trouble, or tarasso in Greek. The first trouble in Luke describes how Zechariah was startled or troubled. Half a year after Zechariah's trouble, Mary was greatly troubled, verse 29, by an angel's appearance and announcement. This Greek word, diatarasso, makes its first and only occurrence in the Bible, meaning total, thorough, throughout, dia, and verse 12's troubled, tarasso. No one could imagine the tension, her turmoil, and test. The Christmas message in Matthew is God with us, Matthew 1:23. But the message of the angel to Mary was the Lord is with you, Luke 1:28. Second, count on grace from the Lord, Luke 1:30-34. Grace is more uncommon than you think. Have you noticed how often grace is mentioned in Matthew and Mark? Not at all, because it occurs for the first time in the New Testament, both the verb in 28, highly favored, and the noun, verse 30, favor. Shockingly, the word is absent from the Gospel of Matthew and Mark, but it occurs 4 times in John 1:14, 16, 17, and 8 times in Luke 1:30, 2:40, 2:52, 4:22, 6:32, 17, 9, the most among the 4 Gospels. 8 of its total 12 times in Gospels is related to Jesus or Mary. It is not too far-fetched to speculate that it is reserved for Mary's occasion. No one deserved a better honor, tribute, praise, and salutation. What is grace, then? No one can quite epitomize, exemplify, and embody grace like Mary. It is 1. Living a life of gratitude, Luke 6:32-34. 2 Corinthians 8:16, also translated thanks, 2 Corinthians 2:14, 9:15. Second, living a life of rejoicing. See Luke 1:47, rejoiced, philem, translated as joy. Third, living a life of abundance. Luke 1:42, 1:45, blessed. Number 4, living a life of courage. Verse 30. Number 5, living a life of essentials. My grace is sufficient. 2 Corinthians 12:9. Are you carrying a heavy burden today? It's a cloud of darkness boxing you in. Cast all your anxiety on the Lord, because He cares for you. 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 7. Third, choose to live for the Lord. Luke 1:38. Mary was a godly, good and gentle servant of God. Chronologically, the first servant, verse 38, in the New Testament is a woman, in verse 38. The climax of Luke's account is not the proclamation of Gabriel or the promise of Jesus, but the permission of Mary. Verse 48. Her head comprehended it, her body conceived it, but her heart must confess it. The story moved from Mary's troubles to her turnaround, and now to her trust. The first time she said nothing. The second she sought clarification. The third she sang praise. Mary was not necessarily the most qualified, the most intelligent, and the most deserving to be chosen. The only unique reason why God chose her was grace, that she was a descendant of David. Mary's life presently was one of the confidence in God, cooperation with Him, and commitment to Him. Conclusion. The greatest gift God gave to us for Christmas is to send the Savior. But the greatest gift we give to Him is to be a servant. As a servant, ask yourself, am I distinguished in service? Am I obedient in tasks? Am I unflagging in effort? Am I lowly in attitude?